Welcome back. My mic wasn't on. Let's try that one more time. Okay. Hello, welcome back.
We are so happy to be here. We felt like it's been forever since we've recorded. We're like, it feels good to get back into it.
I know, it's been interviews and traveling and all the things, but we're ready to give you another informational podcast episode.
So excited. So random. I was just telling Savannah I had this random thought, and it was when we were recording the intuition course. And that was like the first time we really did any kind of like recording or being on camera or any of that kind of thing. And we would get so nervous before we would start that we made it seem like it was part of like each chapter where we would do like this meditation, but it was really just to make us not nervous, because we'd sit there and like breathe, but we made it seem like, oh, this is part of it.
This is for everyone.
This is for everyone, but it was really just for us. So I'm just proud of us that we've gotten to the point where we can record without like having to like deep breathe, meditate.
Full mental breakdown before. That's where we were when we first started. We were it'd be like mental breakdown afterwards. We like forced ourselves to do it because we knew it was like what we needed to be doing and how we needed to show up. But at the same time, there would be a whole unraveling that would happen afterwards. Now it's like,
yeah, it just feels normal, which is it's I think it's a good progression that we've made, and I know they're just going to keep getting better and better, which feels good. And yeah,
speaking of the unraveling, is anyone else feeling that Pisces season energy?
Oh man, you guys, I've been feeling all the feels hard.
The emotions are high. The energy is intense.
Mm-hmm.
All I can say is we have been moody the past couple days, but like aware of our moodiness and like letting it happen. Because if you listen to the Pisces episode, that's the whole vibe of like flow through the emotions,
just feel it all.
And every time we, especially like I learned this when we first started recording, is when we would talk about a subject or like talk about, I don't know, it's like I've talked about before, like the spelling, like we call it into our lives. And I swear we were like Pisces season energy.
We called in a whole lot of Pisces energy. Yeah. I can't remember the last time I've cried so much as I have in the last week. It's been really intense. Yeah. Probably good. I'm excited for like the next phase of Aries the feeling.
Of Pisces. Yeah. The like enjoyable parts.
Yeah.
Well, it was the Pisces new moon last night, so I think we're hopefully coming over the hump a bit. I feel a little less moody today. I was about to get in a fight with someone at Trader Joe's. This woman who was just so oblivious to her surroundings, and I'm staring at the popcorn section. I'm looking at what I want, and we're in the snack aisle. There's like a lot of room for her to go around me, and instead she pushes the cart straight at me. There's no one else around me. She could have easily just like maneuvered around me, and she looks at me and goes, excuse me, and I literally was about to pick up her cart and move it myself, but instead I took a deep breath and I just stepped to the side so she could just keep going straight instead of turning her cart a little bit. Anyway, that's where I'm at. So
yeah, for me, everything just makes me want to cry, which is so abnormal. And I'm just going down this like little sad girl spiral.
I'll protect you and I'll fight anyone.
Yeah, I know. I need Savannah just to protect me from the world.
Nothing physical, just verbal. You want to have a verbal, fight, altercation? I'll throw it out.
I don't.
I'll protect you though. If you need my help, reach out on Instagram. Send me to handle your problems. I'm just kidding. Don't do that.
And if you just want to have a good cry, just send me a message and we'll cry together.
Danielle will send you her sad girl playlist. Yeah, just cry together. I know. I was saying, usually I'm a big crier, and everything I've been feeling, I swear it's like residual things. Oh, interesting. It's like residual things from over the past year, I swear, like topics that have been coming up for me. And with Pisces season, like we were saying, it being the last sign of the zodiac, and you kind of go through and process the year you've had. That's why I've been saying, like, I feel like I don't have any more tears to cry. Yeah. I'm still super fucking frustrated with certain things, but it's almost like I know them already. It's not coming up new for me, but
I must have some unresolved shit then, because like my anxiety has been higher than it's been in a while, but it doesn't feel like there's like a specific catalyst where I can pinpoint it and be like, that's where it's coming from.
Mhm.
But I'm trying to take our own advice from the last episode where it's like, don't try and intellectualize your feelings, just feel them.
Mhm.
But that feels so unusual for me because I'm like, but shouldn't I be trying to figure out where this is coming from? But
I know.
just trying to feel it all.
I know.
I'm feeling a lot.
Thinking of the past. I mean, I feel like everyone will ask me, or in my past, people have asked me. I think they know now not to ask me this, but they're like, "So, what's your like schedule like? What's your life like?" And I'm like, I've had the most normalcy the past couple months since we've moved to Santa Cruz, but before that, and I think when you start living by your intuition and just kind of going with the flow, shit is not the same every day. And so it's just
Mhm.
crazy to think of how different the vibe is this week versus like the past month. I feel like we were a lot more like, I mean, it was the sign of Aquarius, just a lot more
Mhm.
like up and moving and going and
Mhm.
grooving. And now it's like,
Yeah.
oh, all these feels have really stopped me in
Yeah.
my tracks.
It's really difficult.
The water,
Like, how do I get anything done when I'm just feeling all the time?
it's like walking through water. It's hard.
yeah.
But also you could just release and go with the current and flow down the
Yeah.
river.
I'm just feeling good knowing that at some point a new season will come. Like we said, maybe we'll get to that good part of the Pisces season that I'm looking forward to be Little Mermaids. But wowza, guys.
I know.
Anyone else feeling it? Because
I know.
we definitely are. But today we are talking about the ego. A couple weeks ago, we released an intuition episode, and now we're like, all right, we talked about the intuition. Let's bring it full circle. Let's talk about the ego.
Yeah, I can't remember what made me think of this. I think I was on a walk. I don't even know. And I was like, you know what we need to talk about? It's probably just because you and I have daily conversations about reflecting on what's going on in our lives and whatever is the ego.
Mhm.
And I think it's because in the intuition episode, you talked about how at times, you know, we're guilty of it. You know, we'll demonize the ego and be like, oh, it's bad.
Mhm.
Repel any sense of the word when it comes to the ego and just stick to the intuition, which is great. But then, you know, through our conversation, we really realized that they, like you said, they work in tandem, they work together. And since we talked about the intuition, time to talk about the ego.
Because really, it's a pretty normal part of human existence. Like, we can't really ever eradicate the ego, nor would we want to, because it is really important in so many different ways. And, you know, in the spirituality community, I feel like you hear like, oh, like I had an ego death. And I feel like that there's like a misconception of what that means. Because it's like, oh, I have no more ego for me. But the reality is that there are parts of the ego that are just necessary to human survival. So we want to talk about what is the ego? What does it do for us? But also, sure, can get unbalanced. Let's not use the ego 100% of the time.
I think in the spiritual community, I'm so like, as we're like a part of the spiritual community, but I feel like we do it in a very like realistic, day-to-day, holistic way rather than putting spirituality on this pedestal of like, okay, we're all trying to achieve, you know, like, yeah, like you said, the ego death, and like make sure you have to meditate every day for 3 hours and like non-attachment. And all those things are great. And I think it's really good to have your ego in check. But if you're living without an ego, you're like living without a sense of self. And I think that's why we were incarnated into these bodies. Like, we're here to live this third dimensional life on planet Earth. And if you're going to do that, then you're going to need an identity. You're going to need an ego. It's not bad.
Yeah. Yeah. It just like helps us find our place in the world based on like outside.
Yeah.
Viewing like outside people and situations and kind of being like, hey, where do I fit in?
So if you want to be in a cult, that's the place to not have an ego, because your cult leader
tells you how to think and who to be.
Yeah, your cult leader is going to lead the way for you and tell you every part of who you are and your identity is no longer needed. You're here to serve me and the group.
And they have the biggest ego of them all.
Yes.
Because everything's about them.
Yeah. The one self-serving person at the top of the pyramid. That is the cult. We love cults. We're working on manifesting a cult episode.
Oh my gosh.
You put that out into existence. Maybe it'll happen. We'll see if you're lucky. Well, great example of an unbalanced ego is Mr. Kanye West. Who has seen that documentary on Netflix?
Well, I think it's interesting if you have seen the documentary, you kind of see how he like navigates throughout his life. So I think at one certain points in his life, he did have a really healthy sense of ego because he was like, I'm good at what I do. No one sees it. Like he's putting himself out there in a very confident, very self-assured, like I know who I am. I know what I have the ability to do. But then over the years, it definitely gets to the point where now he's like, I'm better than everyone else, like
Yeah.
unhealthy version. But it's
No, in the beginning,
Yeah.
and that's why the documentary is so great. You realize that like the true essence of Kanye's always been Kanye, but now he's just an unbalanced vibe of Kanye, and it's I mean, we're dealing with a lot of mental illness there too, and that's really sad, but you know, just the inflated ego now is just it's too much. But when you look at him when he was younger, you're like, that kid is going places.
It's the reason he got to where he is, because he did have such a sense of worthiness, sense of confidence, all these things, again, all super positive traits. But then I think the difference to me when we're looking at like balanced ego versus unbalanced ego in the way that Kanye is, it's like when it's balanced, you really are like, I'm good at what I do. I see what I have the ability to do. Like I'm important, right? When it branches into the unhealthy is when you then start comparing yourself to others instead of saying, I'm good, I'm important. You say, I'm better than you are. I'm more important than you are. And that's when it gets to the point where it's like, no one's better than anyone else.
Is that a Kanye song where it goes, I'm on top of the world?
Probably.
I'm pretty sure he says he's on top of the world. He's better. Someone's listening to this and it's like, you're wrong. But maybe I'm right. I can't remember.
You would know. Yeah, you'd know better than I would.
That just came into my psyche. The other thing I was thinking of is a good example in the podcasting world of ego is Alex Cooper with Call Her Daddy. She is just killing it right now. And I feel like her sense of ego and self has not inflated while she's hit this like insane growth period. She's just like really staying level-headed and understanding she's just a fucking person. She's not better than anyone else. But she really fucking believed in herself. And you know, her whole falling out that she had with her co-host, like dun dun dun, you know, like she was like, we're going places, we're doing shit, and if you don't want to stay on board and do it the right way, or I mean, I guess who knows the real details. I've heard both sides of the story, but you know, look what she's made for herself in the past couple of years, and that's all based on herself believing that she has something to give to the world. And look at her now.
And this is like where the importance of ego is that we also bring in that intuition piece, right? And they can work together because you're working off of a sense of purpose, but you're doing it in a very logical way. So that's kind of how those things can go together really nicely. Like you have the sense of self, you know, hey, I'm good at this, I can do this. You also have maybe those intuitive pings of like, this is the path I'm supposed to be on. And you can confidently be like, I'm going to go do that, you know?
Yep. Sorry, I got distracted and I was like, on top of the world, Kanye West, like Googling.
Did you find it?
There's definitely things that have come up. So I do think, yeah, he's gonna touch the skies. Yeah. He's gonna touch the skies, everyone.
Oh my God.
So anyway, I'll stop with that and get back on track. Yes, I agree with everything you were saying. Yeah, when you have a healthy sense of ego, you're gonna just believe in yourself. You can get it done, and that's what you were here. And you're like, bada bing, bada boom,
right?
To make it happen.
And if you're working purely from a place of ego, like I read something that really resonated. It's the ego communicates it through musts and shoulds. So if you're working purely from an ego place and not from an ego intuition balance, you're gonna do things because you're like, oh, I should be doing this. I should, you know, I must go do this because everyone else thinks that I should do it. It's not because it's truly coming from a place of like, this is my purpose and this is what I'm going to go do.
Yeah. The tandem, the two working together, the intuition and the
ego. Unstoppable. Because also if you're working really hard towards something that doesn't actually truly align, it's not going to bring you really any like true fulfillment. If you're just, you know, working towards a goal that you're working towards because that's what you think you should be doing or other people are telling you, like, you're probably going to get burnt out as fuck because it's not what you actually want to be doing.
Truth.
And also, you're just basing your worth off of like the end result.
Mm-hmm.
And what if you never get, you got to like enjoy the process, because what if you never get to the end?
Or you get to it and you're like, okay, now
What now?
I was just chasing something rather than
Mhm.
enjoying the moment.
Exactly.
It's not about the destination. It's about the
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah. And if you're chasing someone else's view of success,
Mm-hmm.
that's not going to be fun.
If it's a trip, if it's a
Yeah.
location that someone else told you to go to and you were like, oh, I really wanted to go to the Bahamas, but you went to Canada instead, you get there and you're like, why did I do this?
Yeah.
I don't
And
want to
it's
go
a lot
here.
of work to travel. So you did all that work just to get somewhere that you're like, I didn't even want to come here. It's fucking cold in
I
Canada.
know. Get me in my bikini on the beach.
Yeah.
That's where I want to be. But it's a lot harder, I think we're living examples too of like showing up day to day, doing something that deep down in your heart and soul that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like I know in every ounce of my being that this is where I need to be and what I need to be doing. But it's not as easy as like again, the Alex Cooper situation. Like that is one in a billion. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are going to have to put in the time and effort a little bit longer to reach the goals they want to achieve. And I know like you and I, like we've talked about it too, like how humbling the past couple of years have been with everything we've been doing, because we're like, oh, we're going to be like, we're going to
do all these things.
Mm-hmm. See you on vacation in Italy. We're going to be on a yacht.
We're going to be billionaires in just a couple of months. Just watch us. And then they're like, oh, yeah, so that didn't work out.
You want to move into a house together? Okay, great. Sounds good. But the funny thing is like we've also discussed over the past couple months, almost year of us living here, is like how many experiences we've had living together as far as feeling supported and in community that we would have never gotten if we lived in separate spaces. So
yeah,
living by that intuition isn't always the easiest, but we're here doing it.
Yeah.
And we're fine.
And we're enjoying the process. And we still have a huge amount of faith of where we're going to take this and where we're going to be. Like we still haven't lost that side of ourselves. It's just our egos have just been humbled a little bit. We've just been brought down a couple notches, and it's like, okay, fair enough. I still see the vision. I still know it's going to happen, but like,
fair enough.
Let's be a little more realistic with things, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, at least we don't have an unbalanced ego, because that shit is, I've been around unbalanced egos in my life. And
when you're talking about unbalanced, are you talking about like inflated
ego?
Yeah. Or like that side of the unbalanced? Okay.
Yes, thank you, because it swings both ways. But the unbalanced, when you are leaning towards narcissism, where, like we said, the Kanye West vibes of like, I'm better than everyone else, or I'm more important than everyone else. It's like, I'm so grateful I don't have any of that. At least, hopefully, you can tell me if I do. But like, with it, like thinking myself as being more important than other people, because I've been around that in my life, and it's super frustrating and hurtful and upsetting. And having having family members who maybe suffer from narcissism, it can be it's so much more confusing for the people around them than it is them, because they're the ones who believe that they're the best and everyone needs to just like get on board with my plan. And then the ones around them are the ones who have to suffer through it. So hopefully I'm not causing anyone suffering.
I think the self-awareness is
key.
People like that, what they lack.
Yeah.
Because they don't realize, they don't even think there could be a problem. But if you're aware enough to be like, I need to watch that and make sure I don't do that, I think you are fine. You're in the clear.
Okay, good. Because it's just a hard balance and fine line of like, okay, I want to believe in myself and I want to be confident and I want to say like, I'm my number one priority, but then you don't want to overkill it to the point of thinking you're better than everyone else. So it's like, okay, how do I have this fine line of staying in balance? Because then the other side of being imbalanced is you fall into
like
Just
unworthiness.
yeah.
Yeah, where it's like, well, I can never do that. Or,
Mhm.
I can never be there and that sort of thing. And that's not healthy either.
Mhm.
You still have to believe in yourself, because who else, if you don't believe in yourself, like there's not a whole lot of people that are going to be able to do that for you. Like you have to be your own advocate in everything that you do if you want to achieve anything in life.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a balance, man. It's a balance. And
Yeah.
even I don't know the direct quote from Maddie from Euphoria, but a couple weeks ago she was talking about confidence, and it's basically the vibe of like fake it till you make it. Like, how many people that you think are confident, like, are they actually that confident, or do they just like believe it, and then other people like slowly caught on and started believing it too? You know what I mean? You just kind of, and it's the same thing. I mean, I think confidence and having a healthy ego go hand in hand. You're confident in who you are.
Yeah.
Believe in yourself.
Worthiness as well, I think.
Mm-hmm. I feel like ego goes hand in hand with like personal branding as well right now, with everything going on online. And so the online space is so fucking confusing for everyone too, because it's like, oh my God, like it's just like self-promotion 24/7. And it's like, I'm sick of seeing my own fucking face, but at the same time.
Yeah. And it's hard too, because I mean, obviously it's always our goal to come off as authentic, hence fucking authentic souls. But in the online space, it's so difficult because you do have to put on this somewhat curated, like, this is who I am, and like almost have like this introduction ready to go of like, this is who I am, this is what I do, like, look at me, and it can be really hard to do that in an authentic way. Even if like you're trying your darndest, like there is still this like almost like stage presence feeling where you like have to put on like a show. Does that make sense?
And I know that there are, and you can feel it when there are authentic influencers out there. But those ones are rare. The ones who have a healthy sense of ego, like that's rare. The majority, it's inflated ego who say, oh, I have X amount of followers now. That means that I'm more important than other people. And then it gets frustrating for other people who aren't there yet, because you look at, it's just a weird, mucky world right now where your worth is based on your following count. And that just really fucks with our psyche, I think.
Yeah, and just your perception of like other people. It's like, it's so magnified. It's something we've always dealt with since we were in tribes, but just on such a magnified level, which is so crazy to think about, because instead of like looking at who you are in a group of like, let's say your tribe of like 10, 15, like, oh, where do I fit in? Like, who am I? You're getting watched by millions of people when you put yourself out there on the internet, and that's just insane. And are you actually putting the true version of yourself out there? Like, it's hard to do, even if that is your intention.
And then as you're saying that, I'm realizing too, like, yeah, as the viewer, we can sit back and judge and be like, oh, that person's curating this version of themselves that's not real. But also for that other person, whether they're consciously aware of it or not, like how hard that would be to post to millions, thousands of people, millions of people, whatever, knowing that you're going to be judged. Like, it's hard for everyone on every aspect of the spectrum. It's like, whether you're consuming or you're creating, on some level, you're setting yourself up for discomfort. And I think that's why, I don't know where I heard it or read it, but the way someone was saying, like, the way we see smoking, where people used to smoke inside and, you could smoke anywhere. And now we're like, ew, are you fucking smoking inside? Like, take that outside. Like, you don't bring that inside.
Yeah.
It's like, they were saying, like, that's the way we're going to view internet one day. Like, social media, it's like, oh God, don't bring that inside. You can be on the internet outside. We're in an open space where everyone can breathe, because it's just too suffocating for us to be consuming this all the time.
Yeah, and your ego is just working overtime because you're constantly like, your brain is just racing. Like, think about when you're scrolling, like, even if it's on a like deeper level, you're like somewhat like comparing yourselves to others. You're like, oh, they're doing this, should I be doing this? And your brain is kind of just going like a million miles an hour. And that's just your ego trying to literally make sense of your place in the world. And that's a lot of information to just be constantly like soaking up and trying to like sort through.
Oh my god, as you say that, I feel so bad for just I mean, it's not I don't feel bad, I just have empathy and, like, understanding for people who for everyone who's consuming or creating.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot, and we're all trying to
Yeah.
make sense of it, and it's right now it is such a resource as far as building a business and, like, getting eyes on you, but at the same time, there's so much pressure because maybe your ego's telling you it's hard to identify whether it's your intuition or your ego telling
Mhm.
you that this is what you need to be doing. At least
Mhm.
I know that for me. It's like
Yeah.
intuitively, oh, this is very reflective for me because it's like intuitively, do I really want to be doing all this stuff online, or do I
Yeah.
feel like I have to keep up with the Joneses, or I'm going to be left behind? I'm going to be forgotten,
Mm-hmm.
and
Because
it's
that's a
like,
huge part of it. It's like, especially with just the way video content, like we've talked about that, like anyone who's a creator or a business owner, it's like, it's not even a matter of like, oh, like I really enjoy making videos, which I have gotten to that point where I really do enjoy it. But it kind of got to the point where it's like do or die. Like you won't get seen unless you create like a certain type of content. So you got to jump on that wagon. Otherwise, you know, you're gonna get left behind. But yeah, I know it is crazy. And like you said, from an outside perspective, like I can't judge you about where it's coming from because I don't know. It could be coming from a really genuine, authentic place. I'm like, oh, she's just copying everyone else because that's what everyone else is doing. Who knows? And I think the only advice or somewhat clarity, hopefully, we can give you is like, just as long as you know that you are doing it from a true place, that's all that matters. And maybe it takes checking in with yourself and saying, am I really doing this because I want to, or am I doing this because I feel like I have to? Again, is it a should? Or is it a truly like, I want to do this?
Yeah. And then knowing that these apps and these interfaces are programmed to fuck with us mentally, and it's so hard to override all of that. Because yeah, the whole feeling of like I'm being left behind or I'm going to be forgotten. It's rough.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you can find an avenue where you can show up authentically, and maybe that's just as I know with you with videos, you've been like, oh, you got to give like a trial and error period where you just start making all different kinds of content that you feel called to make. Don't try and just base it off of something that you've seen, unless you feel called to do that and you want to recreate it for yourself. Like, then go for it. But it's the Wild West out here, and your poor ego. Have compassion for your ego and
literally working overtime.
I know. Crazy. Yeah. Well, let's talk about a balanced ego.
Yeah, let's talk about it. So, I mean, we kind of talked about this a little bit, but balanced ego, it's going to look at a group of people and where you fit in. And instead of being like, oh, like comparing yourself to everyone else, you're going to be like, have just a sense of self-worth regardless of who else is in there. And not because you're like, oh, well, I know I'm better than them at that or whatever. You're like, no, I'm confident in who I am. I'm worthy in what I do. And it doesn't matter. I'm not comparing myself to others.
Yeah. Understanding that like you're different than everyone else in this lifetime. Like you are not here to mimic and copy someone else and everything they've done. Like you're here to be you, and knowing that confidently and showing up fully in that way, even if other people may not understand. When you have a healthy sense of ego, you're not going to be needing the outside validation. You're just going to be centered in who you are and continue showing up as that. I think again, it's such a tribal, it goes back to such tribal nature as far as needing validation outside of ourselves and wanting to make sure we fit in. This whole idea of fitting in, I think we're kind of, at least especially with the next generation coming up, like it's like swinging to the other side of the pendulum. Like the pendulum is swinging. What am I trying to say?
I mean, I understand.
You fully understand.
Yeah.
Okay, we're swinging the other way. And now it's like, fuck it. Like, I don't need to fit in. If you fit in and you're like normal, like quote unquote normal, whatever that fucking means, then you're not cool now,
Yeah.
So it's like, fuck. It's like, everyone just needs to do them, and
that's all that matters.
Yeah. And then we can all just celebrate each other's individuality, and life will just be a little party where we just cheer each other on rather than tearing each other down. Because we're like, oh, you're not what we were taught to be normal, whatever that means, especially in America. I know other people listen to this side of the US, but I mean, here especially, it's like the way we were brought up. It's, what, to be straight, to be married, to have kids, like all of that, which if you want to do all of those things, then by all means, you do you. But I think now we're at a place where we can really celebrate people's differences and choosing to live less traditional ways. And that's all going to come from a healthy sense of ego where you can just confidently be who you were supposed to be without having to worry about outside perspectives. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. I saw something that I really loved. It was basically like, think of the ego as like a radio. And sometimes it's really loud and it's hard to like process anything else when the radio is really loud. So like when your ego is turned up, all you're hearing is like your internal dialogue and you're not really noticing anything around you. You're not noticing your intuition. So a balanced ego, I'd say, is like a quiet ego. Like you turn down the volume a little bit so that you're still hearing that train of thought. It's not completely gone away, but maybe you can hear like the subtleness of your intuition a little bit more. You can notice like the people and the things happening around you and take that, them into consideration. And it's not just like, I think of that with Kanye. I'm like, his ego radio is turned up so high. He is not listening to anyone else or taking anyone else into consideration. It's just full, like, his ego train of thought. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Like I said, it's mixed in with mental illness. So
yeah, for sure.
Because at the same time, I feel like he's channeling some shit that like we don't even understand fully. And that's why he's been demonized in so many ways. Because I think that intuition and the ego are full blast right now. He can't hear anything else. No outside perspective is allowed.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, working with your intuition and ego in tandem is key. Having those, like I wrote down, I think having your intuition be step 1 and then your ego be step 2, where it's kind of like you ask for, maybe you have a specific question or you're just trying to like, what the fuck am I supposed to do next? Like, how am I supposed to show up to the world? When you get that answer or that ping or that intuition pull to do something, that's when you can apply your ego to now ask, okay, like, how can I achieve this thing? Because you do need the step-by-step, third-dimensional logic to-do list to get these things done.
Yeah.
So they're both important.
Yeah, and I don't think we really need to get into it because I think we talked about it enough in the last episode, but we did kind of talk about the differences between what that sounds like. Because again, there's like this internal dialogue that we're always having. And so it's like, well, how can I tell if it's the ego or the intuition? And it's like, the ego is going to kind of have a way of speaking. Again, it's going to be the woods. It's going to be the shoulds. It's going to be coming from a place of fear. It's going to,
and like forceful nature.
Exactly. Where the intuition is going to be a little bit quieter. It's going to be a little more gentle. It's going to be coming from a place of love. It might not make sense in like a logical way. It might have to kind of unfold the way it does. But just briefly, that's kind of like the difference of how you can kind of pinpoint them as you hear them come up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And man, I know I've already touched on this, but moving, it's such a, like, we are so proud of you if you have decided in any way part of your life to move out of the ego mindset. Like, I mean, again, they work in tandem, but like purely only living in logic and ego as far as like, this is what I need to achieve. This is what I need to do. And then stepping into this place of trusting your intuition and knowing that your ego has a place, like we said, but moving into this place where you are waiting for messages from within and acting on those in ways that you feel inspired and showing up to the world in whatever way feels best for you. Because I think people have this idea that it's going to be easier once you start doing that. And even I did. I think that's where a lot of the spiritual bypassing comes into, where it's like, oh, you can manifest it, law of attraction, all of it, and your life's going to be super easy and fun and flowy. And you don't realize how unflowy our lives have been our whole life. I mean, when you're little and when you're younger, your life is super fucking flowy if you are privileged enough to live a flowy childhood. You know what I mean? Some people aren't privileged that, and my heart goes out to them. And then at some point we are all told to get into line, And you're going to have to figure it out. You're going to have to figure it out. And so then our ego just and logic goes on overtime.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, figure out what? Oh my God, adults know all the things and how to do it correctly. And then once you get older, you realize adults don't fucking know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
They think they know what they're doing. They think this is the answer. They think this is how they're supposed to structure the world.
Yeah.
But a lot of those adults probably have some regrets that they didn't act on those intuition pulls that they felt when they were younger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you are doing that now, kudos to you. We feel you. We feel you. Because it's not easy. The world isn't set up for us yet. For the people who are living by their intuition and like to hold space for that. I know there's certain people in my lives where I feel really misunderstood. That they look at me and they're like, huh, okay, interesting, cool. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. But I have zero regrets. And that's the thing that I don't think they could say.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not one is better than the other. It's just a different way to live life.
Exactly. And we're just here to empower you to do whatever feels right for you.
Yeah.
And just bring up all these options, these ways of thinking, these ways of holding self-awareness, and then you can kind of take those and run. But we don't want to tell you how to.
No.
We're not going to tell you how to live your life. We're just like, this is kind of what works for us.
Maybe
like,
your intuition is like, you need structure. Because guess what? That's what my intuition has told me this past year is you need some fucking structure. So you are going to get grounded and you are going to figure out all the details of your life that you have just put on the back burner. So
yeah,
it doesn't mean you're going to be just, you understand what I'm saying, right? As far as living by your intuition, it doesn't mean you're going to just be floating through the sky.
yeah. Again, like you said, you could still live a very, very traditional life by society standards, living by your intuition. But the point is that it's truly coming from a place of that's your purpose and that's what you want to do. Mm-hmm. And that's all we want for you. Whatever your life ends up looking like, if it's super structured, super traditional, but that's coming from a place of like, this is what I want, this is what I desire, then we couldn't be happier for you, you know?
100%.
But yeah. But that's just all we want. We just want people to be making decisions from a place that's truly, truly coming from them and not coming from any kind of outside influence telling them this is how you need to live. This is how you need to be.
Perfectly said.
Thank
Perfectly
you.
Well done. That's why we're a great duo. Because I'll go on these esoteric rants and you'll ground it back down and make it make sense.
Good. I'm glad.
Because I'm like, what did I even just say? Just pure channel right now. I'm like, this has been 2 years in the making of getting this podcast out into the world, and now it's here. And I'm like, all right, time to share all the messages. And then once it's time, I'm like, just like a brain scramble. Like if I could just download my thoughts into your brain, that'd be great. But I have to use words. I'm not gonna be
maybe in the future we'll get there.
Yeah,
but we still have to communicate.
Elon Musk is working on it.
Yeah,
it's terrifying. But is it? I don't know.
Well, we've kind of just like gone full circle, so I don't want to push doing this in a structured way, but we kind of started to talk about more balanced things. Do we want to talk a little bit more about the unbalanced? I know we kind of just sprinkled it in throughout.
If you have anything you feel inspired to share.
I mean, I feel like most of it has been said. Yeah, I mean, just like doing a full circle, bringing it back around. The main thing is just like unbalance would be thinking you're better than others or comparing yourself to others, like always looking outside of yourself instead of just knowing, that you're good at what you do, you're important. And I think the other thing we mentioned a little bit is just always focusing on like results and achievement instead of really asking yourself if that's what you want. Mm-hmm. Or if it just feels good to be able to say that you've done it, or it feels good to, tell people, oh, this is who I am. This is what I do. Like, is that real? Like, is that really what you want? Or does it just feel good to have people look at you in a certain way or be like, oh, wow, that's impressive, but does the process of getting there feel good? And does it feel aligning? And is that really what you want?
Yeah. Chasing the achievements and us being such a consumeristic, like, society, we all have this idea that we need to buy certain things and have certain things, and once we have those things then will be desirable. So I think everything, like there's the yin and yang in everything. There's a balance to everything. Finding that balance is extremely difficult sometimes because there is the good and the bad in everything. So in the ego, in consumerism itself, like there are so many positives to it. And like, I love having nice things, but I don't base my worth off of those nice things. And I don't overdo it. You know what I mean? So having that, I think growing up in the suburbs, it was all about materialism and having things. And then, in my early 20s, I went real hippy dippy granola head girl. And I was like, non-attachment, ego death, like all of those things. Like, I am nothing. I only eat plants and, which is great, but it's great if you only eat plants. But, at some point I was like, all right, I need to find equilibrium again and try and find a balance where I can really understand and have a better relationship with these things because they're not bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So again, I think everything's just a balance, having an ego that's in balance and not swinging one way or the other.
Yeah.
So in simple terms, it would be, you'd be swinging to the narcissistic Kanye vibes, or you'd be swinging to the super low worth. What's another word for having low self-worth?
Like low self-esteem.
Yeah, just
not feeling good about yourself, not feeling like you're worth anything or you can achieve the things that you want.
Yeah
We don't want that for you.
And if you feel that way, my heart goes out to you because you are so worthy. And you just haven't figured it out yet.
You have something really special to bring to the world. Sometimes it just takes a while to figure it out. What is that thing? What is everyone's got? Usually, I mean, we all have many, many things that make us special, but sometimes there's just like that magic thing that we each have to really bring to the world.
And honestly, maybe it's something that you feel insecure about, which is hard to have understanding around. But I know for me, again, I've talked about my sensitivities and me feeling called to have these spiritual conversations. Like I used to feel the need to have them all the time, 24/7 with anyone who would have them with me. And now it feels so good to have a structure where we can come sit down and have these topics to talk about. But I also know that like I felt very ostracized a lot of the time, where I'd show up to a gathering where everyone's having small talk and I'm like, let's talk about past lives. And I have found my people who want to have those conversations, but I definitely felt alone a lot of the time and felt weird and felt misunderstood. So if you have something different or similar that you're going through, know that maybe that is your thing to be sharing.
Definitely.
And because people aren't talking about it yet, that's why you were brought here to talk about it, whatever it is.
I had the most random thought earlier today. I don't even know why I was thinking about it, but I was just thinking about like a lot of the like really eccentric famous people that like are just so amazing at what they do. Like whether it's Kanye or like a Lady Gaga comes to mind, like all these people that they're so celebrated because they're so weird and they're so different and it's like fascinating, right? But then I think about before they were famous, like people probably thought they were all weird as fuck because they're like, who do you think you are? Like Miss Lady Gaga, like what is her name? Stephanie? Who do you think you are, Stephanie? Like walking around in your weird little outfits telling everyone you're going to be a pop star. Like that's weird. Like fit in, like wear something normal, But then once you've been appreciated for that thing, it's like, oh my gosh, that's like your superpower. So I think about that, like, sometimes it just takes more people appreciating it to realize, oh, wow, this was really special. But if you can realize that in yourself before anyone else does, and then show up to the world confident, like, this is my weird little thing that I got that no one else has, then people are going to start to realize it too.
Yeah. And then just keeping that balance once you do get the recognition. And again, Alex Cooper, I think she's a great example of like, she's hit this level of recognition that no other podcaster has received. And she's still just like, showing up in my sweats every day. Like, I'm just a person. And some people, want to talk shit about her or hate on her because she has reached this level of success for talking about whatever she fucking talks about on her podcast. It's gone through so many different iterations at this point. But at the same time, it's like, give her props. And the fact that she can keep this level of because at the same time, the way we idolize famous people and create this fame culture is super fucking bizarre and
Mhm.
weird. Why do we
Yeah.
put people on pedestals?
I know.
It's super weird.
It's really weird. I just had another example, which is so weird because I don't even watch Euphoria, but somehow I'm like, just know everything
Give it
about
to me.
Euphoria.
I watch it.
The character who plays Fez.
Oh,
So he was literally like a nobody
bow,
before.
chicka, wow, wow.
He was literally a nobody before the show. Like, I'm pretty sure I read something where like a casting director just walked up to him on the street and was like, call me. Like, it was that point where he was literally not even like pursuing acting. So he just came, he's literally a normal ass guy. And even though it's such a short amount of time, he's become so famous, he still feels super normal. So I was watching this little like clip of an interview with him, and he was like, it's so weird how people treat me. Because he's
Mhm.
just so newly famous that he just feels like he's like anyone else. And he's like, I go to places and they put me right in the front of the line. And he's like, I don't get it. I'm not any different than any of these people. Why are they putting me at the front of the line? You know?
Bless him.
And that's, again, healthy fucking ego. He's like, I'm just like everyone else.
Mhm.
But I'm sure he's also confident in himself and is like, yeah, like I got this job, like I'm doing this, you know? Anyway, another
Oh,
example.
Wow, love. Thanks for bringing that up. Also, anyone who's watched the season, no spoiler alerts, but heart goes out to Fez. Heart goes out to Fez. We can talk about it.
I love
We'll
how
talk-
I've never even seen this show and I'm like fully giving examples about it, but
No, that was perfect. We'll talk about it later. I'll tell you what's
Yeah.
going on in his life
Okay.
on the show.
perfect. Yeah, you'll just
Um,
sum up the whole show for me and I don't even have to ever watch it.
It's really fucking intense. That
I know,
show.
that's why I'm like, I don't think I could actually watch it. But I could do like the Savannah like sum up
yeah,
session.
the summaries.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a great example, and also just an example of magnetism. I'm like, what was he doing before that? And
Like literally nothing. Like he was just a normal ass dude.
oh, that's so cool.
You know.
Just magnetic to the point of someone coming
Mhm.
and approaching him and being like, you are gonna
Mhm.
be on my show.
You're gonna be a star.
You're gonna be a star, baby. Come with me. And the way he speaks, that's how he speaks in real life, right?
hmm
Yeah.
He's like not any different.
He's just
from-
like
yeah.
fully
just
authentically
like
himself.
showing up him as himself. Yeah.
It's like, all right, tell me the words I need to say, and I'm just gonna be me. Okay, great.
So cool.
Jinx, you owe me a soda.
Well, have we summed up ego? Hopefully, we've enlightened you on all things ego.
Ego
today.
is not bad. Ego is good, but
Yin yang.
in a balanced.
Yeah. Have that yin yang of balance and of
Find-
balance of ego and intuition.
Find the line between the white and the black of the yin and the yang.
Yeah.
Young grasshopper.
Be confident, but not like so confident that you have to bring other people down. you
Yeah,
know?
or just like obnoxious. Don't be obnoxious.
Yeah.
Unless you feel called to be obnoxious, and then you just don't fucking care, because maybe that's a thing. But have some self-awareness.
hmm
It is
Yeah.
key.
Yeah, just think about all of this. Like, I know this is going to make me think a lot about just like moving forward. I think every time we get into like the ego intuition, I'm just like, yeah, I just hold a little more self-awareness of situations and how I'm approaching things. And
Yeah.
that's all we can really do is just kind of notice and like, you know?
Totally. I think with the showing up online thing, it's very like that'll be something I reflect on as far as why am I showing up online? How am I showing up online? Does this feel like a should or a have to? Or is this like something that I want to be doing?
Yeah.
Because
That's a good little homework assignment for you.
thank you. Thank you, Danielle. All right. Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode.
Can't wait to bring you next week's episode.
Have a great week.
Bye.
Bye. Just a little ramble.